welcome to Inside Eastern Utah. We're here today with one of the most fascinating people, I think, that lives in the county, Craig Royce. And Craig, you were born in Oakland, California, but you are here in Utah now, and we're going to have you take us kind of on that journey of how that came. But recently, or at the current time, you're working with Pinnacle Canyon Academy, and your title over there is Academic Athletic Ombudsman. And so tell us a little bit about that at Pinnacle Canyon.
Okay, thank you, Shannon and Scotty, and your fine professional staff. Before I go into the current position, I would like to say, though, that on behalf of the entire Pinnacle family of schools, and we have 3 different schools there, we would like to express our condolences to the families and the individuals whose souls are now not totally with us in Las Vegas. And it was the act of one individual, and I want to remind your fine Castle Valley and Moab audience that it only takes one individual to touch the same amount of lives every day in a positive fashion. And this is an area in America where it does happen. The prayer is tremendous. The sense of community is tremendous. And if everybody keeps working to touch the population in a positive way, we'll have less and less of these issues. Now, as far as currently at Pinnacle, I'm what's known as Academic Athletic Ombudsman. And it's my job to see that our fine student athletes are all eligible each game to participate because they are academically passing. So it's my job to make sure there's no Fs and that the young athletes can participate in that night's game, not be pulled out because of grades.
Yeah, that's great. It's great that Pinnacle offers that, because there are a lot of kids that can become an issue for, and then coaches have no patience for that.
Yes, ma'am.
And on top of that, also a published author.
Yes, we want to talk about your book and all of the fun stuff that you've done. I said earlier you were one of the most fascinating people in the county. I think that's true. You have such a diverse touch. You're kind of into a lot of different things, and it's been really interesting to learn a little bit about you through the book Uranium Seekers, and that's what we're going to talk about today. But before we talk about that, tell us, how did you end up in Carbon County? You were born in California, you were educated in Kentucky from the University of Kentucky, and now you're here in Utah. And your book Uranium Seekers is a lot about the mining in Utah.
Yes, it is. Well, thank you for asking, Shannon. In 1975, I had a small museum and gallery in Laguna Beach, California, pre-bicentennial, handling art from Appalachia. Appalachia, from the Southern Highlands, primarily the Kentucky quadrants of the Southern Highlands or Appalachia, and that I'd become acquainted with during my college days at the University of Kentucky. So I returned to California, moved to Laguna Beach, and opened a museum and gallery, trying to handle some of the finest traditional American handicraft and art with historical precedents back to the beginnings of our country, and with, of course, much Native American, Cherokee especially, influence. So, and I was trying to overcome the hillbilly myth about Appalachian people. Because just like Carbon County, Mineral Resource Foundation, biggest coal producers in America, individuals that have to, just like here, there's almost a utilitarian act behind everything you do.
I just read a book called Hillbilly Elegy.
Okay.
Really?
Yes, and it is, the author was a hillbilly. He calls himself that, from Appalachia, and he was also a Yale graduate. And he just talks about his childhood and how we get kind of in this mindset and the similarities between his upbringing and some of the things that happen in Carbon County were kind of astounding to me, that there's a lot of similarity there.
Absolutely. Again, in an environment where at one time most of our energy production was based in the home on a coal-fired stove.
Yeah.
And if you didn't put a lump of coal in at midnight,
You're freezing in the morning.
You'd be freezing in the morning. That baby'd be cold. If mother didn't put one more stitch into the quilt, that baby may wake
Unravel,
up with
that's
the
right.
chills. So yes, it's the utilitarianness of both environments that is very much in common.
Yes, I agree. Okay, so what brought you to Utah after you had your art gallery in Laguna Beach?
Here we go. I had a little museum and gallery in Laguna, and one day a lady came in, and I tried to shoo her out because it was more of a museum than a gallery. Okay. Is this for sale? Is this for sale? Well, no, that's literally in the Smithsonian, et cetera, et cetera. And when she finally got out of me that I had a book that was coming out, signed a contract, had been written, it was ready to be published within a couple months, she literally sat down and said, I have a story to tell you. I own the most beautiful mountain in the world.
Oh, I know who she is now.
You know who she is? The lady is
She has
Brenda
a whole,
Malachi.
Yes, a whole chapter in your book.
Yes, the lady was Brenda Malachi, whose father was a extremely pioneering uranium producer, promoter, miner from the early 40s at Temple Mountain and procured other properties. And so after we talked for a while, we became a team financed by Malachi Uranium Properties for several years, trying to put together a book on her father, but I immediately saw this as a cosmic story. I mean, it goes back to Madame Curie and before, and to literally our prehistoric and archaic brothers and sisters who used to adorn their bodies with yellow uranium or carnotite ore as decoration and on their pots. So this story goes way back. So we worked for a couple of years. I immediately saw this as just a giant story. And so we started making trips up here, and the mines, the Vanadium King mines at Temple Mountain that her family had owned, does own to this day, started producing in the mid-70s. And so I was up here all the time doing administrative work, not mining. I can't say that I mined, but doing administrative work and dealing with the Department of Interior on and on and on, pre-Federal Land Policy Management Act actually being enacted. And we worked and worked, and I even procured Clyde Vanderberg of Vanderberg Linkletter Associates in Beverly Hills, the man behind all of Art Linkletter's enterprises, and was representing Ronald and Nancy Reagan at the time, and people like Barry Goldwater and many Academy Award winning Hollywood people to try to agent the book, because he was a Western Colorado man. He liked it. Every week I'd take him up to Ollie Hammond's on La Cienega when they had their lamb specials, because being a Western Colorado guy, he loved lamb, and we would have, the book wouldn't go, we couldn't quite sell it. Chernobyl, 3 Mile Island put us out of business. Quite frankly, uranium fell right off the map in the late 70s.
Yes, and there's an excerpt from the book. You said that this book is to pay tribute to the miners and to remind the reader that uranium was first used to kill, not humanity, rather neoplasms or cancer. So explain that to us.
Well, exactly. I mean, uranium was first developed and mined and discovered for the radiation content. And as we know today, we all have heard of radiation treatments for cancer. And millions of people, hundreds of thousands are alive today because of that treatment, not destroyed.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
And so the whole idea was, my hope was that if the harmonious utilization of this cosmic element was utilized, maybe the destructive reality would literally melt away. It hasn't quite happened yet as uranium has come back into the public eye through the North Korea, et cetera, incidents. But that was the whole idea, to try to overcome it's one of the main essences of my book, was to try to overcome, talking about the hands of the humanity who went into the heart of Mother Earth, into radioactive mountains. And this is the hand, by the way, of Frank Malachi, a relative of Brenda Malachi's, and he was the cement finishing foreman on from Price, cement finishing foreman on the Grand Coulee and Boulder dams, built the mines and the facilities down at Bullfrog, Chittering Canyon, where Michigan Power and Light mined for many years. And as you notice, he's missing a digit. So the book is also about the hands of the humanity that went after and still go after uranium ore. And also, one more thing, to also remind people that uranium's chief byproduct is called vanadium. And vanadium is a steel alloying material that uranium was really industrially first mined for World War I to supply the battleships with the steel used to create them, and tanks, World War I and World War II. And the Ludlam Division of U.S. Steel was first developed because of vanadium from Temple Mountain.
So interesting.
I was
Yeah,
going to say,
it is
that is a
fascinating.
lot to tackle, especially, I mean, a whole book in just a short interview. Where can people purchase this book if they want to read it in its entirety?
The book currently here in Price is available through the USU Eastern Prehistoric Museum. It's in their bookstore. It's in the library system. It's in the bookmobile. And it has been available at the Western Railroad. It's been available at the Museum of Santa Fe. It's been available at John Wesley Powell. I don't know at this moment, but the place to get a copy, because there's so much Castle Valley in it, would be the USU Eastern Prehistoric Museum bookstore.
Great, which also, we only have a few minutes left, but you are also a big part of our archaeology and paleontology is also a big part of your life, and you have done a lot of work with Tim Riley over at the museum.
Yes.
And do you want to, in 30 seconds, tell us kind of what your work there entails with?
Well, in sort of partnership, yes. I'm not a member. I mean, I'm a member. I'm not on the staff of the museum or the college. But really, starting in 1975, when I first started coming, I mean, this was just a couple years after I-70 was cut. Because Country Miles was so much about utilitarian art and stuff, suddenly I popped into the materials, the art of our prehistoric and archaic brothers and sisters in the Santa Fe Swell, and started making some amazing archaeological discoveries in the Temple Mountain area, some which have been considered very, very important. Recorded through the state, through the BLM, through the museum. Many have Smithsonian numbers attached to them. So there was kind of a transition from more contemporary, 1800s Appalachia, into the precedent, the preceding archaic and prehistoric culture.